And I believe we're on. Okay, welcome back. Justin's Lighthouse, Thursday Night Family Group. It is May 11th, 2023. Man, if we just had some intro music. We got to get some intro music. And I'm relying on you to do that. Okay, this is an actual live group at Justin's Lighthouse. And we obviously don't show the people in the group. Kind of small group tonight, but it's really geared for, anybody can watch, it's public, but it's really geared for our families that aren't able to actually join us in group. But we've got a lot of comments from people who've never even been to Justin's Lighthouse who catch this on the internet and they get a lot out of it, so we're going to keep live streaming it. Okay, we're going to start out like we always start out with a little reading from the Recovery Bible. And let me make sure this is the right one. Okay, yeah, this is good. Okay, this is about delayed gratification. Some of us are addicted to chaos. We may be so used to crisis that we don't know how to enjoy the calm. Life in recovery may seem boring in comparison to our old ways. We may even miss the excitement and danger. The rewards may seem too slow in coming. The Apostle Paul said, "So let's not get tired of doing what is good. At just the right time, we will reap a harvest of blessing if we don't give up. Weeds spring up quickly. Good crops grow more slowly and must be tended steadily. Even before we can see anything sprout, it's only in time that we will enjoy the fruit." Jesus suggested that we expand our perspective even further with a view toward eternity. Jesus said to his disciples, "If any of you wants to be my follower, you must turn from your selfish ways, take up your cross, and follow me. If you try to hang on to your life, you will lose it. But if you give up your life for my sake, you will save it. And what do you benefit if you gain the whole world but lose your own soul?" It is God's will for us to have a rewarding and fulfilled life. It may be easier to adjust to our new way of life if we remember that denying ourselves immediate pleasures will bring a harvest of rich rewards in this life and in the life to come. Wonderful. That's all in reference to Matthew 16:24 through 36, or 24 through 26, if anybody wants to look that up. Okay, that's really fitting. I don't spend a lot of time trying to match those with the topic of the group, but so often they tend to really gel with what we're talking about. And what we are going to talk about is the danger areas of recovery. You know, what we were just reading, he was talking about perspective. You know, that's so important in early recovery, is maintaining a new perspective, a healthy perspective, a realistic perspective. Remember, some of our, addicts, when I say us, I'm talking about addicts and alcoholics. So much of our thinking is geared toward instant gratification. This idea that it's kind of this unspoken idea that we're not supposed to have any problems. Our idea of success is to have an experience where nothing bad happens, or everything goes my way, or everything falls into place the way I want it to fall into place. That would be considered a good experience, but it's just not realistic. And so there's this, in the recovery process, there's this separation from how we think and behave and interact personally as an individual. And then there's the second part of that we have to start separating ourselves from, and that's the experience itself. The big book refers to that as people, places, things, and situations. So understanding a new perspective is everything. And so I'm going to start off with this. We're talking about the dangers of, or the danger areas of recovery. It starts with recognizing you're going to have difficulties. I know, so many people that I've worked with, and I see it, I recognize it in my own early recovery experience. It's so easy to think, well, as long as I'm not living that old life, things are just going to instantly be different. And so, of course, what happens is now we're sober, but life is still happening. We're still having difficulties. We're still having struggles. We're still having to delay gratification. We're still having to make an effort towards things we don't want to do. And it can be very frustrating if we have the wrong perspective. And many people do. This is the very reason where a lot of people end up relapsing early in recovery, because it just feels too hard. Like we were just talking about, early recovery can seem very boring, but remember, that has everything to do with the brain too. That set point has been increased to such a level that it's going to take time for the brain to restore back to a normal hedonic set point. So it's very easy to have a perfectly normal day, but the alcoholic brain is like, oh my God, it's not exciting enough. It's not exciting enough. Constantly needing to be entertained, so to speak. Never forget the new perspective. It doesn't mean you always have to feel that. Just recognize it, that I am going to have some difficulties along the way. Nothing good worth having comes easy. Of course we're going to have difficulties. That's just realistic. And I've got 3 points over here. I'll just kind of stick to the board as much as possible so we can get out of here, and I'll try not to ramble too much. But the recovery process is filled with challenges, of course. And they're not always what we might anticipate. That's why having no expectations is so important in early recovery. Well, just kind of as a good rule of thumb for living. But we're coming from a place of having very unrealistic expectations. And now in early recovery, we're being asked to not have any expectations, just practice accepting whatever it is you're experiencing. Give what you can to it, let it play out. This, a whole new way of thinking. And that in and of itself can be extremely challenging. But overcoming these challenges is what leads to change. The alcoholic brain wants no challenges, right? We just want life to be different. But it's having the challenges, pushing through, practicing what we're learning, and overcoming the challenges is what leads to change. In the addiction process, all of the challenges that we have in our addiction process leads to more chaos. Think about that for a minute. You don't even have to be like during periods of using. You could have sober periods, but you're still technically in your addiction phase. How am I going to get money today? How am I going to pay that bill today? How am I going to get it? How am I going to deal with this person? How am I going to get my booze today? How am I going to hide my booze today? How am I going to, all the challenges that we tend to face in our addiction process doesn't lead to any change. It just keeps us in the chaos. So keep these things in mind as you're encountering what you perceive as a difficulty. And I will tell you this, once we get a pretty decent foundation solidified, where it's everything, your new way of living is just becoming a habit. You're not having to think about it. You're not having to go, oh gosh, yeah, okay, it's noon, I got to eat lunch. Your new way of living becomes the new you. It gets easier and easier, and what you end up discovering is about 90% of the things that we used to see as a challenge or some sort of difficulty, it isn't. But because we've got so many internal defects, this need for instant gratification and approval and validation and blah, 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 we can perceive something to be extremely difficult, but the new you who is in a healing process with a new perspective and a new way of responding won't see those things as difficulties because you're changing. That's the whole point of change. We need to become a different person. Let me qualify that. You're not becoming a different person. You're becoming the person you were always meant to be. Right? We became a different person when we got stuck in our addiction. That was the different person. Now recovery brings us back to who we're supposed to be, only more complete, more whole, the guy that we've never been, or the girl, whatever. And number 3, keep this in mind. I was kind of stressing this yesterday in group because it's so important. These little bitty things, it's so important to just kind of blow right past. You are changing everything about you. So cut yourself some slack. Give yourself a break. It is going to take time and effort, but of course it's well worth the fight. It's well worth the fight. I mean, think about that. We've got to change. Well, technically, we don't actually have to do any of the changing. All we have to do is pay attention to our own behavior and implement some new strategies, and everything else about you will become different. The way we think, the way we interact, in like little micro moments. Your perspective, your ideals, your outlook on life, the way you speak to somebody else, the way you listen to somebody else, the way you go about carrying yourself every day, all these little bitty detail things are becoming different. And that's just going to take a while. It sounds really complicated. I don't mean to scare anybody, oh my God, I'm never going to pull this off. No, the reality is you're already pulling it off. And again, just like we were just reading, all we got to do is just show up every day. Just show up in recovery today. And some days you'll feel 100%, and you'll give an equal effort. And some days you'll feel 20%, but if you still give an effort, you get to keep moving forward. Right? There's never a day where we go backwards. Every bit of this process, it may seem like a difficulty, it may seem like an obstacle, but it's not. As long as the old saying, as long as you don't quit it, the only people that don't get it are the ones who quit it. Just don't quit it. Don't quit the process. The definition of process is simply a series of actions. That's it. It doesn't have to be a series of perfect actions, of all the right actions. Process is simply a series of actions. And so inside of that process, some of those actions are going to not be so good, and some of those actions are going to be wonderful. Just keep taking action, based on what we're learning, obviously. Okay, so now here's the time for the reality check. These things will happen. So expect them. Correct them. These are all maybe not all of them, but it's a pretty good overview. And everybody does this. Everybody will find themselves stuck in one of these. I think there's 12 points that we're going to talk about, or 12 areas, and you'll recognize it in yourself. These will happen. Expect it and correct it. When they happen, when you wake up one day and you realize, oh my gosh, I've been isolating for a week now. That doesn't mean all is lost and all your chances at recovery are ruined. It means you're still in the process of change. That's all. They will happen. I mean, this also applies to non-addicts too. The first one, they're not in any kind of priority order. But number 1 is loss of daily structure. I think that should really be like your go-to thing to look at, as you evaluate yourself. You got to be so in tune, and I don't mean like perfectionistically about it, but I mean recognize that our daily structure is like home base. So that no matter what is going on, no matter what you face, whether it's, the death of a close family member or the loss of a job or just some unbelievable mistake that you've made, the quickest way, or I should say the most efficient way to get back on the bike is just get back to your daily routine. Get back to your daily routine, and not perfectly, not perfectionistically. It's like, oh my God, okay, now I gotta wake up at 7, brush my teeth at 7:15, take my shower at 7:28, eat my breakfast, jog 14 miles by 8:09. That's not what I'm talking about. That's the kind of stuff we used to do in our addiction after we would crash and burn, and we try to perfect our way into change. Your foundation, your daily routine is everything. And of course, as you move through life, you'll make adjustments to that. But recognize the significance of that consistency. All routine consists of is you're doing very specific things at about the same time pretty much every day. Right? It doesn't mean, you can't get out, Saturday rolls around and you're just dead dog tired and you're just going to sit in bed and watch TV and eat pizza all day. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. I've been known to do that from time or two. Well, I guess it depends on how many responsibilities you're letting go of, right? Not if you're supposed to be at work, obviously. If you're supposed to be at work, go to work. There's a time, though, your daily routine is just your consistent behavior throughout your each day. So, and once you really get that established, you'll feel it. I mean, you'll tap into it when you're having, maybe you're having a day that, okay, let me kind of expand on this idea. Let me qualify this. Remember, for us, having a bad day or a difficulty doesn't necessarily mean that something bad is happening in our situation. What tends to really trip us up is how we start feeling, right? So you can have everything in your life going great, but then all of a sudden you start feeling irritable, restless, discontent. You're angry and you don't even know why. You feel butthurt about something, and it becomes a difficulty because it starts to take you over, right? Hey, come on, we're gonna go. No, I don't want to. Well, hey, we got. I don't care. And we just, what my grandfather would have just called a bad attitude. Recognize that's the kind of stuff that we have to be aware of. It doesn't mean you can't have bad days. It means just keep doing your stuff. Take your bad attitude or your whatever, your anger or whatever, and just move into the next responsibility. What you'll find is the more you develop that as a habit, you'll be able to deal with that very quickly. I've been known, and I think most of us, man, we can stay mad for days sometimes, or we can stay, I love that word butthurt. The first time I heard that, I was like, oh my God, that totally describes some of my old behavior, as a grown-up. I don't pout. That's not true. Yeah, we do. And that's what it is. Our feelings are hurt. We didn't get our way. Something touched us. Maybe it even impacted some trauma, but we don't know how to respond to it. And so we default to basically where we left off, which was at the age of 12. And so your brain just takes you right back to how you used to respond when your older brother got something that you didn't get and you pouted and slammed the door on your way out the room. Well, we do the same stuff as an adult. Butt hurt. I like it. It fits. But we don't have to stay in it. That's the point. We're growing. We're changing. We're becoming different. Okay, that's long. I won't spend so much time on each one of these. The second one is loss of personal care. We were talking about this a little bit yesterday. We just start getting careless, which I like to equate to loving ourselves. If you're loving yourself, then you are engaging in behaviors that put you in a better position. Right? That would make sense. If I'm not loving myself, then I'm probably sitting back waiting for the world to love me. Right? Well, I just don't feel like bathing this week. I don't feel like shaving. I don't feel like doing my laundry. I'm just gonna this is funny because we heard this not long ago. It's like, if you're deciding on when to do laundry based on how your clothes smell on the floor, you probably need to take a look at that. Right? We literally heard that. It's like where everybody was talking about, how they handle their laundry, and one guy was like, I just smell it. Well, what if you've worn it 6 times? Yeah, it doesn't matter. I don't always sweat. Anyway, it was not a good rule to live by. But and there's no secret, when we're not doing those things that take care of ourselves, your self-esteem will go down. When we are doing those little bitty detail things to take care of ourselves, your self-esteem will go up. It really is that simple. And so, always remember that. We can turn things around in our own life fairly quickly if we understand some of these principles. If you're irritable, restless, and discontent, don't look at your situation. Look at yourself. Okay, what have I slacked off on? What do I need to correct right now? And one of these 12 things is where you can look and go, yeah, I've been kind of blowing this thing off. Yeah, I've been blowing that thing off. And then you can instantly correct it, and you'll see almost instantaneous results when you do. And now you're living. Now you are managing your life well based on a particular set of principles, not feelings. And that's really the nutshell of recovery. That's how people not just get sober, but stay sober. Another thing is, regarding loss of personal care, is we stop enjoying life. Now, in very early recovery, where your brain is just fighting like crazy to restore itself, you're going to have some of those peaks and valleys anyway. Kind of like we were talking about earlier, that anhedonia, where you could be having an amazing experience and it just seems so dull and mundane. That's a natural part of that, but pretty quickly we move past that part. If you're having an experience that should be enjoyable, but you're not enjoying it, there's something going on with you. What you don't want to seek out is a more intensive experience, right? Because that's just adrenaline seeking. That's instant gratification. That's more. I'll fix this. I just need more of it. That's the old addict thinking. What I need to do is look at myself more. The third point is not being able to set limits. This is a big one. Remember, one of our big characteristics, kind of just an idea just came to me. I should go back and redo this, and we'll do it at another time, and attach the emotional defects that are associated with each one of these areas. That would be very eye-opening, right? So what's going on when we're living? I'll maybe finish it out that way. So what's going on number 3 when we go through periods where we just can't set limits? We won't tell anybody no. Everything is yes, which, by the way, it's also relative to how we live. So as long as we're telling everybody else yes, we're also expecting yes, which is a setup for disaster. But we can also become either too rigid or too lenient, right? We either must have this thing, that thing, this way, that way, or would just roll over and be everyone else's doormat. What's that sound like? All or nothing. Well, one of the things that's happening in a situation like that is I promise you, you've let up on your daily routine. And so your self-esteem starts to go down, and we try to make it up in the old ways by approval seeking, people pleasing. We're afraid to tell people, no, I can't do that right now. Hey man, can you help me move? Well, I just got off work. I'm really tired. I worked 4 days in a row, and I only get 10 hours off. And, oh man, but I'm moving, man. I can't do it without you. Okay, I'll be there. We commit to things we shouldn't commit to. We say yes when we should say no. But we're so afraid of what we think that no means. If I tell everybody no, they'll think I don't like them. If I tell everybody no, they won't like me. And so we get caught up in that. That's what's happening underneath that. And we easily put ourselves in those positions when we stop taking care of us. We start slacking on our daily routine. We stop managing our own emotions. And you remember, we're having to change everything. And so it's kind of like, if you can just kind of picture a visual, it's like, here we are, and we're filled with all these defects. And as we kind of move through this process, we're learning new things and we're applying new things. But these defects, they hang on. They want to hang on. And you have kind of an emotional dip, and all of a sudden the defects take over. And then you catch yourself living in the defects for a while. But stay in the process, because eventually it'll overtake it, or the new you will overtake those defects. It's default mode. We talk about that all the time. It's a default mode. It takes a while to reprogram all those defaults, because we've been doing them for a long time. When I'm sad, when my feelings are hurt, when life isn't going fast enough, we become very impulsive. That's just what we do. So that's not going to just change overnight. You make efforts, but when your defects show up, expect it. These things will happen. Just respond differently to it. It's, all of this is why it's so important that we stay connected. We've got to stay connected with our recovery people, whoever that is for you. The fourth one is loss of constructive planning. That's a big one. That's something I still deal with. I can spend an awful lot of time on things that weren't necessarily the most important things, and determining that can be difficult. That's why we should be talking about what we're thinking about. We should open up. We should be humble and willing to receive new information. But the point is when you feel overwhelmed and confused, that's probably what's happening. Is you're starting to feel like you're just chasing your tail. That old expression. Chasing your tail, you may be doing a lot of things and getting a lot of things done, but the esteem that should come with that isn't there. And that's probably what's happening, is you're getting overwhelmed and confused because something, those instincts are telling you there are other things that you could be working on different. And that's part of our defect too. Eventually you get balanced in that thinking, because part of our old life is also, whatever we're working on, we're always thinking we should be working on something else. So there's a discernment part of this whole process that comes about, where you understand, okay, these are the most important things, these are less important. Am I just looking to avoid something, or am I really trying to accomplish something? But that's why, when we are trying to plan constructively, we need input, we need feedback, especially in early recovery. If my thinking got me to this point, I don't know what's important. I used to think, doctor shopping was important. In fact, that was the most important, but that's not important at all. I used to think, as long as I could find a babysitter, then I was being a responsible father. No, that's not what that looks like. That doesn't mean you can't get babysitters, but I wasn't getting babysitters because I was going to go spend some private time with my wife on a date for the first time in 5 years. I wanted a babysitter so I could go chase drugs. That's not what that looks like. But in my mind, right, in my defective mind, that seemed really important. So my point is we're not really sure what's important and what's not important. We gotta be teachable. Just stay teachable. So, but you recognize your emotions when you're feeling overwhelmed and confused. Stop problem solving. Stop trying to think your way through it. Those are the times we ask for help. Because at the end of the day, we will always choose what's easiest over what's most important. The fifth one, indecision. God, this one might haunt you forever. But that's just when we start to lose focus. And here's how you know you're kind of caught in the defect of it. It's a danger area or danger zone. Is you're not just losing focus, but instead of taking responsibility for it, like, man, I recognize I'm losing focus. I haven't been sleeping good this week. I'm not taking this thing over here very seriously. I need to get a little bit more into that. Instead of working your way through from a personal responsibility way, we're just blaming others. Oh my gosh, my life is so messed up right now, and how could I possibly be focused when I got this person screaming at me, and this person yelling at me, and this person refusing to do this thing for me, and this thing isn't working out. That's the indecision. That's a danger zone. This is the stuff we drink and use over. This is stuff we run away. We'll throw our whole recovery away for this kind of stuff. And that's why it's so important to recognize it when it happens. Number 6, compulsive behavior. That compulsivity, that just means, we just want to do more and more and more and more. Go 150 miles an hour. I just want to go. I'm going to tackle. I'm going to conquer. I'm going to make stuff happen. I'm going to da. But even that isn't enough. It's never enough in our mind. We'll never work our way into peace and serenity. That's the all or nothing. That's why it's in the danger area. Any compulsive behavior, and I can be very compulsive. I can be very impulsive. The point is we don't have to self-destruct in it anymore. You can recognize it, and as long as you turn it back inward, what's going on with me? What do I need to recognize about me? You can get out of it. The 7th one, which is our return to need to control people and situations. That's a big one. What does that really look like when we're trying to control people and situations? There's obvious ways where we just openly manipulate people, but there's one that I think a lot of people miss, and that's just the mental obsessions of wishing we could control or change someone. And those can be very deadly. They're hard to articulate. If someone says to you, man, you're just trying to control everything right now, we wouldn't see it. We would say, no, I'm not. I really am not trying to control anybody. I'm just letting everything happen the way it's going to happen. But we'll never look at what's going on in our mind. We're wishing like crazy something was different. Oh God, the big book refers to that as the if-onlys. If only this, if only that, if only this, if only that. But what we'll project to the rest of the world is, no, I'm staying out of the way. I'm not trying to do nothing. Don't miss what I like to call the intangible of that. The mental aspect of it. We're constantly trying to control people and situations. Number 8, defensiveness. It's one thing that's a big part of the relapse dynamic too. Just being angry and defensive. How do you know? It's funny because everybody's been accused. You're being awfully defensive. And what's the first thing we say? No, I'm not. I'm not being defensive, which is just a display of defensiveness. But what's happening when we're being defensive? Remember those three basic fears? I'm gonna kind of talk about this, because the third one of those fears, a lot of times people have a hard time recognizing the third fear. The first fear is not getting what we want. The second fear is losing something we thought we had. But that third fear is getting caught for something that we did or said. And it's easy to say, well, we think in very tangible terms. It's like, well, I haven't done anything to get caught for. But where it really comes out is, being found out. And so that's really what we're defending ourselves, because deep down inside, we know when we're shirking some responsibility. We know that, it was important for us to do this thing over here, and we've been blowing it off, or we didn't do a very good job. That's that internal radar. Guilt is a good thing. So when we're getting defensive, what we're doing is we're saying, I'm not interested in looking at that. Versus being teachable. Let that be that's a big red flag, or what some people say, a check engine light. When you're, it doesn't have to be in that moment. So much of this stuff, especially when it includes someone else, like someone else is having to bring something to our attention, it's very easy to be defensive or kind of standoffish and completely deny what's happening. But you can still grow through those experiences. Just as you walk away and you go get some alone time, this is the stuff you got to look at. Obviously I am being defensive. Why? What am I afraid of? What am I missing? And it's not hard if you're being honest with yourself. Well, the truth is I have been blowing stuff off. The truth is I haven't, taken a shower in a week. The truth is I haven't been taking my life very seriously. I have been waiting for magic tricks. And that's what it looks like to get honest with yourself, and that's how we keep growing. That's the whole point of talking about all of these characteristics. The ninth one is a return to fear, which, fear, that's what anxiety is, right? If you're starting to feel a lot of anxiety, especially in situations that wouldn't normally cause you anxiety. Remember, we bring a lot of insecurity to the table. And so that's usually what's happening when it comes to fear and anxiety. We're feeling anxious because we are fearing that we're not getting something that we want, or we're losing something we thought we had, or we're getting caught for something that we did. Remember those basic needs. What are we so afraid? What are we anxious that we're not getting? Don't go, oh no, it's not that. I don't really want anything. Rarely is it a tangible material thing. The majority of the time, the thing that we're wanting or needing so much in that situation is something that the world just isn't providing for us. Stuff like unconditional love, belonging, safety, security, honesty, respect, validation, approval, a sense of achievement, etc., etc., etc. We could spend 3 hours just talking about anxiety, but that's really what anxiety comes down to. It's one of those three basic fears. And so when you start experiencing anxiety again, you don't have to get caught in the oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, and just spin it around in your head and become very impulsive again, and I just need instant gratification, and if only this thing would happen, then I would be okay, and oh gosh, I hope this thing doesn't happen, and all that stuff that we increase our own level of anxiety, when all we have to do is look at ourselves in an honest way What is it that I'm so afraid I'm not getting right now? And as long as we stay teachable, that's why I always say, you don't even have to figure that out. You don't even have to problem solve that. All you have to do is talk about what you're thinking about, and if all things being equal, you're keeping yourself surrounded by recovery people. You talk about what you're thinking about, and a solution is going to present itself. There's always someone else that God is going to put into your life who's going to share with you what the solution is. But if you're not teachable and you're still operating in your own your old defects, you're going to try to figure it out. No, it's not that. No, that's not right. It's this other thing. And you're going to stay irritable, restless, and discontent. The 10th one, mind racing. It's kind of funny as we go through all of these, everybody experiences this stuff. Just remember that if we don't get out of it, if we aren't able to correct it and move through it, we're going to drink or use again, if not both. Average people or whatever, normal non-drinker users, they deal with this stuff too. They just don't self-destruct. So it's extra important for us. It's interesting, and maybe you guys have had these experiences with other family members, but it always seems like the person in recovery from substance abuse and or mental illness in the family goes from, kind of being the black sheep, the family rebel, the identified patient, the one causing all the problems, to in recovery because you grow so much and you learn so much about yourself and you become this really awesome adult. You end up becoming the person that everyone else in the family comes to as they have problems, because they recognize your new way of handling life's problems is completely different than what they do. Don't be surprised, a year or two from now, oh my gosh, our 15-year-old daughter is, getting arrested and we don't know what to do with her, and they're calling you for advice. That's something that will happen too. Expect these things, because that's part of being the new you, is you're going to be armed with stuff that most people aren't. They'll never have an opportunity to have a dramatic change in their life. The 11th one is loneliness and isolation. That kind of speaks for itself. We were talking about that yesterday. It doesn't mean you can't spend time alone. You have to be the judge of that. You'll know that if things are getting out of kilter, you're irritable, restless, and discontent, these are the things that you want to look at. Because we can spend too much time alone. Are you seeking alone time to recharge, to refresh, to meditate, to ponder, to plan? Or are you seeking alone time to just avoid? We got to just check out. That's the old default, right? So we can do that even though we don't even mean to do that. It just becomes automatic. When we start feeling stress, distress, anxiety, frustrations, confusions, all this stuff that's here on the board, overwhelmed, that's an automatic response. Boom. We just check out. So recognize that. Loneliness always is attached to that. That's how you know, okay, is this a positive thing, time alone, or is this a negative thing? Is this helping me or hurting me? If that's all you want to do, I just want to check out. I just want to isolate. I don't want to be around people. I don't want to do anything. I just want to bury my head in the sand. You got to reverse that. You got to reach out. This was a very dangerous one for obvious reasons. This is typically the stage that is happening before a person begins to contemplate suicide. There is remember, as humans, we're designed to be, even you got introverts and you got extroverts, but even in that, we're still designed for fellowship. We're designed to connect with each other. And there's nothing more dangerous than that aloneness. Like you're just on an island. There's no one there but you. So really be on guard for this one, for the loneliness. Okay, the last point is the scapegoat. And that's just kind of what it sounds like. Feeling, and depending on your family dynamic, we talk about the dysfunctional family dynamic, and that the scapegoat is one of those characteristics. So you may already be very in tune to the scapegoat concept. But what's happening in that is we're rejecting responsibilities during our difficulties while blaming everyone else. And that sounds very similar to the other one, like indecision, and of course they're probably happening at the same time. So two expectations. These will happen. You will experience these. And the other one is you can move through it. There is a recovery solution for everything we will ever encounter in life, in our recovery. You just have to be willing to seek it. Understand that. Because I've heard this so many times, and I'm sure I probably believe that at times, where sometimes you can feel like you're having a very unique difficulty, and you might even have people encouraging you, look, we just gotta, we're just gonna call so-and-so, and he's gonna take us over here, and we're gonna talk to these people, or we're just gonna go to an AA meeting, or we're just gonna, and the solution being offered to us sounds, because it won't be instant gratification, it sounds so simple that we will reject it. And we'll think things like, no, that stuff's not going to work for me. Whatever the solution is, we'll reject it. But the reality is there is a recovery solution for every single thing we will ever encounter. But the kicker is we have to be willing to take responsibility for it. So even though you may not have caused the problem, if you'll take responsibility for the solution of it, you will move past it. No matter what is coming. And you guys know your stories and know of people and their stories. People can deal with some very devastating things in recovery. Deaths, disabling car accidents, prison. I knew a guy who one time he had killed somebody. It was a manslaughter thing. He was so messed up and he killed somebody, and he was going to go to prison for a really long time, but he didn't want to live that way anymore. And so while that whole thing was playing out, he got sober. He got into recovery. Even though he knew he was going to spend probably 35 years in prison, he wanted to be there sober. And not just sober, but this new person. That's amazing to me. I don't know that I would be able to pull that off. That would be scary. We lose people that are close to us. You may have lost people that are close to you on the other side of this deal, in the addiction process. Me, and there's another person in the room right now that has had that experience. It doesn't matter. There's a recovery solution for everything we will experience in life. But we have to be willing to take responsibility for it. Okay, so what do I need to do? Well, that's why we got to be surrounded by people who have been where we've been. And they'll understand it. We don't have to figure it out. We just have to seek out counsel. That's a big one. I know that's hard for most addicts, and it's still hard for me. I don't want to seek counsel. I just need a little bit of time, and I'm going to figure it out. But I have learned that my thinking doesn't work so good. So what I really need to do is I need to just make decisions in line with recovery principles. And I may not get instant relief, but it always works out. And that's what our new life should look like. So here, very quickly, here's the solution. There's just 3 points on the solution. I've already said this a million times. Expect difficulties. Expect them. They are coming. You know, not to be so doom and gloom. You know what else is coming? Awesomeness, consistency, peace, serenity, balance, an ability to handle situations which used to baffle us, reunions, healthy relationships, careers, you know, so well, let's say the 80-20 rule, right? 80% of your new life is going to be amazing. Maybe 20%, and that's even a stretch. I mean, 20% of your life is just not going to be filled with difficulties. Because remember, as you change the things that you see as a difficulty now, you won't. It's just a thing to work through. It's not that big a deal. You won't see it. It won't trip you up like it used to. Just always maintain that perspective. So when you encounter a difficulty, that's all it is. It's just a difficulty. Maybe you caused it. Maybe you didn't. It's just a difficulty. Keep your perspective. Do you want to go back to the old life? No. Well, then all isn't lost. All we got to do is just keep moving forward. Keep moving forward. It's not that big a deal. But, you know, remember, if you maintain that perspective that we're not supposed to have any difficulties, then when you have one, it will feel like all is lost. Oh my God, I wasn't perfect in my recovery. Oh my God, I screwed it up again. No, flip that around. Of course you screwed something up. That's what we do, but that's also what we're learning how to do less of. We don't have to crash and burn anymore. The second point on the solution is never become unteachable. That one has really saved my butt. Never allow yourself to become unteachable. Now, I'm not talking about open mind. Everyone always says, oh, I have a very open mind, but then we reject 90% of people's advice. No, being teachable starts with just recognizing I don't really bring a lot to the table yet, right? If I really knew how to move in the world, how to handle myself, how to make right choices to better my life, I would have already done it. So that's a good humble place to start from. But I'm willing to learn how. That's what being teachable looks like. Being teachable in every area of your life. You're having a conversation with someone about something that you know more about that topic. Just listen, because you might learn a little bit more. We can have some experiences where we just think, oh no, nothing to learn here. Oh, I already know everything about that. Oh, I've already read that book. Oh, I've already done that thing. And we cut ourselves out of living. But then we'll think of ourselves as, no, I'm a pretty teachable person. But when we have experiences that we could learn something, we reject it. Being teachable is just that. Always being open to new information, even if you think you already know it. That's amazing to me, man. If you can live your life like that, you're going to become like a sponge. You're going to have so much information, but not just like worthless knowledge walking around in your head. Teachability mixed with humility will make you a completely different person. The third point, this is probably the most thing you can use right now. Just begin again. When you encounter a difficulty, when you recognize yourself in one of these areas, oh man, I've been slacking lately. Man, I've been in a kind of a negative mood for a couple of days. I don't really know why. You can start looking at, well, what have you not been doing? You know, that's the crazy thing is, and that's part of it. Remember, you're reprogramming the old default mode. So what we tend to do is we will do some good things for a while, and then we'll get to a little bit better place. Like, man, I'm feeling pretty good. This is nice. I like my life. And then we'll stop doing those things that got us to that place. That is classic alcoholic brain, right? We do it for a little bit to get the reward, but then as soon as we get the reward, we stop the behavior. You know, it's like, well, I've arrived, so it's going to automatically continue. That's not how it works. So you're going to have those periods. Just begin again. Just begin again. There's the old saying in AA circles, just you can start your day over at any time. I don't know about you, but I mean, when I first heard that, it made so much sense to me, because what I would do is, I would get up in the morning and I would be all fired up and, oh man, I'm going to do this, and I would have a perfect idea of how my day was going to go. And let's say by about 1 o'clock, something went wrong, and in my mind, all was lost, and I would have the rest of the day would suck. And in my mind, I would literally tell myself, okay, I'll start again tomorrow. I'll start again tomorrow. I'll try to. And what I was trying to do is achieve perfection. Right? Oh gosh, I was, something didn't work out. I was late for this thing, and then someone else was late for that thing, and by early afternoon, we can feel off kilter. And which isn't a big deal. That can happen a lot. The big deal is the way we react to it. We'll literally end the day, okay, at least on a mental and emotional level, we'll end the day, okay, I'll start again tomorrow. We don't have to do that. We can begin our day again at any time. So you can have a difficulty, some rough encounter, whatever it is, we can hit the pause button, catch our breath, put it in the right box, whatever that should look like, and literally begin again. That's, recognize that in yourself, because we all have a little bit of that. It's part of the addict brain. Man, I think about all the half days that I wasted in my life. It goes back to school. Back when I was in school, grade school, junior high, college, it doesn't matter. And then into working. It's our mindset that's killing us. It's the way we think about what we're experiencing that hurts us so much. So you just begin again with those simple fundamentals. What are the fundamentals? That's your routine. Just get back to your routine. Like, as a practical example, let's say, okay, so 1 o'clock rolls around and you're having some difficulty. The car won't start, or someone's supposed to give you a ride and they just canceled, and now you're going to be late for this thing, and oh my God, what do I do? And those are the times where we're obviously out of control of our situation and we don't know what to do. Just get back to fundamentals. Do the next right thing. You pick up the phone, you call, you say, hey, I'm not going to make it to this appointment. Can I reschedule? You move through it in whatever way you can move through it. Keep it simple. Everybody knows the KISS acronym. Keep it simple, stupid. Keep it simple, stupid. Tina doesn't like me saying that, but y'all have heard that. Keep it simple. She had another one. What's a more politically correct word in place of stupid? Keep it simple, smarty. How about that one? Keep it simple, smarty. And then, but anyway, just keep it simple. We can take a difficulty and just complicate the heck out of it. What do you guys, I know we're going over a little bit, but just just pick the number. What do you recognize the most? One that tends to get you the most. I think in myself, I see the number one, loss of daily structure, is a big one for me, just throughout my whole life. That's what you're going to say?
Well, I was going to say 1 and 2.
Yeah, 1 and 2. Okay, yeah.
When 2 comes in, my daily structure just goes out of whack.
Yeah.
The past few days, and, it just goes up. I mean, they're not all, they're in order, but in my perspective, they would go in a certain order.
Yeah.
Like when I get back to the room, I think I might just, name number them off a certain way.
Put them in your order, yeah.
But yeah, mainly just number 2 mostly, but then, when I stop, immediately stop enjoying life, just for a little bit too, just the whole routine just is, it's like a box of toys, and you just throw them everywhere on the floor, and you just try to pick them up and put them all in the same spot where you had them. So I like that little quote that says down there on 3. It says, well worth it, well worth the fight.
Yeah.
It's gonna take some time and effort.
Yeah.
And that's something I've been dealing with. So it's just gotta stay with it. Stay with it. Things will get better.
I like that. I like that visual with just dumping the box out. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so many of them do pretty much go together. What were you gonna say?
Oh, 11.
All of them? 11?
No, 11.
Oh, the loneliness and isolation.
But, I could even do it. I don't even have to be alone. Just zone out in your mind.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Kind of like we were talking about earlier with the mental obsessions. Don't overlook that one, that area either, because that's so true. We can be surrounded by people and stuff, activity, and just be completely checked out in our mind. That's a big one. I think introverts do that easier than extroverts.
Yeah.
Because it almost comes naturally for us. I know I can do that too. I can just check out, tune out, and no one even recognizes that I'm not there. They think I'm sitting right there interacting, and I'm a million miles away in my head. Yeah, that's cool stuff. Well, they're going to happen. So maybe next week we should talk about all the amazing things that are also going to happen. Or we could just read the promises out of the big book. You will come to know a new freedom and a new happiness. That's all I got memorized. Well, I could splotch it out, but I won't. And in the beginning, it's hard to trust that. I know it is. It is so hard to trust that. But here I'm on the other side of this thing now, and I'm telling you, it does happen. Everything that guys told me would happen, happened even more than that. Just this out, you see the world in a different way. That fear of failing leaves us, and you're still going to have human issues, but as long as we don't quit, we stay in the fight, it's going to happen. Recovery is no respecter of persons. If we just You know, what is it? If we work it, it works. Okay. Thanks on the engineer guy. We're gonna probably post this to Facebook too. But anyway, thank y'all. We'll be back next Thursday, I do believe. And happy Mother's Day. Yesterday was happy Mexican Mother's Day. Did you even know there was such a thing?
No.
I didn't either until yesterday.
I knew there was Chinese New Year's.